Incoming hostiles.
Hello and welcome to Ware Gaming Weekly. Hello and good morning. It is May 30th. It's a Saturday morning, and this is Ware Gaming News. My name is Nick, and across the world in Eastern Standard Time is my brother Josh. Say hi, Josh.
Hi, Josh.
So we are going to get right into it. We have a lot of exciting PlayStation 5 news coming out next week.
Sure do.
So we're going to catch you up with the news that we know and a little bit of that we don't. So we're going to get right into it. So one of the exciting things about this week is that we finally heard from PlayStation, which feels like it's been years.
Yeah.
Because we've heard from Mark Cerny, and we saw the unveiling of the new PlayStation 5 controller, the DualSense. And finally, like I said, after years of waiting, we are getting a new event. PlayStation 5, the Future of Gaming event, has been announced for Thursday, June 4th. Jim Ryan, the CEO, is that what his title is?
I think so.
Or president? No.
President and CEO, or
Jim Ryan, he's the guy. Jim Ryan wrote on the PlayStation blog promising the showcase will be about over an hour long, citing that they are thrilled as ever to bring with you us. Nope. They are thrilled as ever to bring you with us on this journey to redefine the future of video games. This is super exciting news, as it feels like we've been tugging at PlayStation for any ounce of news. I feel like they've been giving us the leave them wanting approach, which is something I wish they would have done with The Last of Us Part 2, but that's just me. So I think it's important to note that this does not really seem like it's not a console reveal of the PS5. It's not just. It seems like it's going to be software announcements.
yeah.
So, I mean, first, of course, are you excited about this news? Are you?
Well, absolutely, for sure. Like you said, we've been waiting for months. You know, when the PS4 was revealed, it was February of 2013. So we already knew. We didn't see necessarily the box or know how much, but we knew it was coming. We had an idea of software now already at this point, and it's going on June. And in E3 2013, that's when they revealed the price and launch lead up, and they were ready to go.
Yeah,
and even Microsoft, by this point, had revealed Xbox One in May, and now they've shown a little bit more, I think, as far as the box, and well, they really haven't shown any games. But
well, no, they had the Xbox had the like the third-party game showcase a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, but Microsoft specifically really hasn't shown anything first party.
That's true. I do think, to your point, that I mean, it's not unknown thing that Microsoft has been putting out like a steady stream of information, whereas, like I said, like their PlayStation is holding it back. And, a couple months ago, I tweeted that something like this was going to happen, where they're going to wait. Like PlayStation execs are in a room, like a bunker, where they're just like, all right, here we go. Like, they have like the intern is the one who's supposed to hit go, like send out all the information, and he's like sweating, and because he's like, Microsoft's saying this, Microsoft's saying that, and he's like, when are we gonna post ours? And they're like, hold, and then it keeps going on, and they're like,
until you see the whites of their eyes,
and then fire. And I think hopefully next week is the fire moment, because I think we're ready for some stuff. Now, one thing that I've seen going around, and I want to get your perspective on this, or I mean, it's not perspective, I guess, just your read on it is not a whole lot of people, at least in the fan groups, have been like, I feel like a lot of people are assuming that this might be a PS5 reveal event. And I also thought that until I reread the PlayStation blog post yesterday.
Yeah.
So what do you think? So what do you think we're really going to see? And what do you think? Do you think we are going to see a price
I
at all?
think so. I think one, because everybody's so wanting to see what this console is, what they're going to do with when is it coming out? Is it going to come out in October, November? Is it going to be 400, 500, 600? I mean, because of all that's gone on, we're just curious as to um, what they're going to do. And so when they just come out of nowhere, like, hey, join us next week for the future of gaming, PlayStation 5, blah blah blah. Everybody just like, oh, we're getting the PlayStation 5 like full blowout next week.
Mm-hmm. I think
which is possible. Mm-hmm. But like you said, if you look at the wording of that the blog post from Jim Ryan, he's talking about what. That's why I'm excited to share that we will soon give you a first look at the games you'll be playing after PlayStation 5 launches this holiday.
Yeah.
And he was very specifically in a couple parts of that talking about software and the games and first and third party games that you'll be playing, the next generation of games.
Yeah. He says at some point after next week's showcase, we will still have much to share with you. So it definitely looks like they're trying to manage expectations, but they've also done it in a way that is a little misleading, or it's hype. You know, it's all hype.
Yeah. And this wouldn't be the first time they kind of mismanaged expectations when they dropped the Mark Cerny, join Mark Cerny tomorrow for deep dive talk about PS5. And if you don't know who Mark Cerny is, you expect this is going to be what we're waiting for.
Yeah.
But knowing who Mark Cerny is, he's going to talk about the nitty-gritty, technical, over everybody's head details about what the PlayStation 5 and how it works.
Now, do you think, you said like mismanaged, and I do agree with that particular instance that it was. I'm curious whether or not this is a case of mismanagement or if this is just a case of just fan reaction to what's happening.
Yeah, I don't know that this is mismanaged, although if you don't look at the actual blog post, and you just get the PS5, the future of gaming PS5 next week, join us next week, you would get the sense that they're talking about the PS5, and they are going to. But by the wording of the blog post, I'm afraid that it's not going to be exactly what everybody's going to be expecting.
Yeah.
So I'm pulling my expectations back to what they've said.
Yeah. So they said, join us on Twitch or YouTube on June 4th at 1 p.m. Pacific Time, 9 p.m. BST. Just look up your local listings and it'll be there. To see what's in store.
British Standard Time?
That's probably what it is. And I'm not even going to guess. I guess Central Eastern. I don't know. To see what is in store for the next generation of games. And he says, I hope we can make you proud. Which, we'll just end it right there. But I would say, like, don't hope that we can make you proud. Just say I know. I don't know. It feels weird to say that.
Yeah. They're having an identity crisis. I think ever since this transition into the new console generation, but we don't have to get into that.
Yeah.
We can do that in our topic show.
Yeah. Story 2, shortly after PlayStation announced next week's Future of Gaming event, more information was released on how Sony is working backwards compatibility into the future console. A Eurogamer reports that Sony has told PlayStation 4 game developers that any new title submitted for certification must also be compatible with PlayStation 5 beginning the 13th of July. And it's interesting to me that the line is being drawn at July 13th, which is before when Ghost of Tsushima is coming out, and after The Last of Us Part 2 comes out. And the wording being used is that those two games are not required to have a PS5 update, but any game that is certified after the 13th is required to have it.
Right.
So I'm curious if there's any big games that are coming out after July that we should know about, or if this is just like tying up loose ends as we're getting ready to launch.
No, I think it's just as simple as like a PS4 Pro. After a certain point, every game had to support the PS4 Pro, and it had to also support the base PS4. Like it couldn't pick one or the other. It had to support both, and that I think that's just what that's about. I don't think it has anything to do with Last of Us or Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah. A couple quotes from the article. Again, this is all on Eurogamer. Was saying a game will be deemed compatible with PlayStation 5 only if its submission code runs without issues on Sony's next-gen machine and provides the same features on PS5 as it does on PS4. It also says we are expecting backwards compatible titles will run at a boosted frequency on PS5 so they can benefit from higher and more stable frame rates and potentially higher resolutions. We're currently evaluating games on a title-by-title basis to spot any issues that need adjustments from the original software developers. And this was, they mentioned something that goes back to kind of a, not a controversy, but a lot of misunderstanding going back to what you were saying just a minute ago about, I think during Mark Cerny's event, he mentioned, the top 100 games on PS4 will be played on PlayStation 5, and then they said it's going to be 1,000 games, and then there seems to be, and actually right now don't know off the top of my head, and I don't have the numbers in front of me to know if they've said a specific number. So there is a little confusion around what that means for PlayStation to have backwards compatibility, especially right now as it seems clearer on Microsoft's side how they're operating with the smart delivery and stuff like that. So
that marks. I think it was just he had an idea of what he was trying to say, and I get it. It was just not conveyed very well. It was actually like he said, most of the top 100 games are playable on PS5, and that sounded like there's only going to be like 98 or 90 games that are going to be on this backwards compatibility at launch, and that wasn't really the point. He was trying to say like 98% of games or 90% of games are going to be playable on the PS5. Basically, there's going to be a few outliers that don't work for some reason or another, and they'll continue to work on that. But he was more saying he was trying to give you a ratio,
right?
And the idea that most likely the games that you're playing are going to be playable on the next generations.
One question I had that we can do a deeper dive into our other show, but just for the moment, I've been hearing people say lately, like I can't wait, like watching the Last of Us 2 trailer that just came out, or the state of play. Someone saying that they're excited to see what the Last of Us 2 looks like on PS5, and my gut reaction to that is, I mean, taking a step back, obviously, one day you'll be able to play The Last of Us Part 2 on PS5, if that's day one, or if that's like a re-released polished thing. And since it's not one of the requirements, since it's before the requirement date to be operable on PS5, then there's a whole thing. But for some reason, I have like this gut reaction when someone says that, almost like it's like a selfish thing to say. Oh, I can't wait to see what this looks like on PS5. And I don't know why I feel that way. But every time I hear that, I'm like, well, I'm also excited to look what it looks like on my PS4 Pro. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if you have any reaction to that phrase, but for some reason, do we automatically assume it will be like?
Well, one, it will be playable on the PS5. That's not. I mean, I have no doubt that all first-party games will be playable on PS5. And two. I think I get what you're saying, where you're like, well, it's kind of like looking further before
The cart before horse sort of thing.
Cart before horse kind of thing. Like, well, I'm just excited to see it and play it and get it done before I get spoiled on the game.
Yeah.
So, but there are some games I can't wait to see running on PS5, like Spider-Man. The very first reveal of how fast this PS5 is going to be. I can't wait to see Spider-Man running on it, or God of War, or I can't wait till Destiny is 60 frames per second on
Oh,
console.
that'd be great.
Um, so I am excited about what the PS5 is going to look like and such, but I'm not, you know, it's not going to look ugly on our PS4 Pros.
Right. Um, if our PS4 Pro doesn't die from the fan. Um,
Oh, is your sounding like a jet engine?
oh yeah, I was playing Call of Duty
You got to
World
take
War.
it apart, man.
I guess I was
It,
playing.
it, Go ahead.
I was playing Call of Duty World War II the other day, and like I couldn't hear the game.
Oh wow.
I kept turning up the game. Of course, I was just using like my speakers. I could have had my headphones in, but I just didn't want to. And yeah, so anyway, well, we'll move on from that. But
Yeah.
um, so so the next story. So this is kind of like the PlayStation 5 like rock block, mainly just because that's all we have at the moment. It's all the information, the like present information that we're working with. Of course, this is we'll talk about all the other consoles and stuff as we get there, but this is what
Yeah.
we're excited about at the moment. So this is what we want to share. So
Sure.
Jim Ryan was interviewed about all of this information and more over on GamesIndustry.biz. Not necessarily about the conference they're hosting, but their plans on how to treat their PS4 base when the PS5 comes out and a bunch of stuff. It's a really interesting article, interview. I would go look it up for sure. Here's a quote from it. So the question that was presented to him was if, like Xbox Series X, like Xbox games that are coming out on the Series X are going to be playable on your Xbox One. They're just going to be always recommended to play on Series X. So when Halo Infinite comes out, you'll be able to buy that on, if you have an Xbox One, you'll be able to play it on there. So that was kind of the question for Jim Ryan, and he has said that we have always felt like we had a responsibility to serve the PS4 community for several years after the launch of the PS5, and that it represented a huge business opportunity for us. The numbers are quite straightforward. If you say in a broad brush, figures that we have a community of 100 million PS4 owners right now, and in the first couple of years, somewhere between 15 and 25 million might migrate to the PS5. It still leaves a huge number of people with PS4s, and that community is demonstrating an amazing stickiness and willingness to stay engaged that I think the events of the past few months have just reinforced that we knew already. It kind of like you have to parse words out of that.
I was gonna say that's like word soup. That
Yeah.
like,
But the I guess big point that he's trying to get is like they're going to continue supporting the PS4 for years. But it doesn't seem like that. He's also said that we believe that when you go to all the trouble of creating a next-gen console, that it should include features and benefits that the previous generation does not include, and that in our view, people should make games that can make the most out of those features. So instead of limiting what a PS5 game can do, this is my paraphrasing of what he's saying. And so instead of limiting what a PS5 game can do, so you can play it on your PS4, he's just going to be like, with the exception of like those third-party games that are like Assassin's Creed and some of the Ubisoft games that are going to be on both. If like those are those will be sacrificed for the ease of being able to play them on both, but any sort of proprietary first party game is probably not. Do you feel like there's go ahead?
I mean, it makes sense that when you're putting out for Sony, who's on top, they've already got their install base on the PS4. Those people aren't going to go anywhere because they're not supporting it.
Right.
Like, they're going to keep supporting it as far as software or whatever. But they're big first party games. They're looking forward. It just makes sense. They want to sell the PS5.
Right.
So, whereas Microsoft just wants you to play their games.
Like just come over and hang out with us, please.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious.
Buy you pizza.
For just $1, you can play as many games as you want for a month. So I am curious if that means like, will there be any like notable PS4 games that come out that aren't third party? or if when the PS5 comes out, if that's no more.
I mean, if any more PS4 games were going to come out from Sony, Worldwide Studios, um, we would know about it because we've been talking about the same 5-6 games for 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't mean necessarily like big games. Like it could be something like Concrete Genie or something like that that is still like backed by Sony, but isn't a big AAA.
I imagine there'll be PSVR games.
Yeah, yeah.
Sony London Studios and such might create VR games that are probably run on both PS4 and PS5 because the VR is backwards compatible. It's not going to matter, and you don't want to cut off those VR people.
Right.
There's the 3 million VR people from playing new games, so I imagine that will have some backwards and forwards, but none of the big guys are going to be doing that.
So that's the PS5 rock block for you. We're gonna wrap up, do a few more pieces of information for next week, and then we'll be on our way out of here. So starting June 4th, the same day as Sony's big event, IGN Summer of Gaming begins. They say, we invite you to join us as our editorials team shares hands-on demos, previews, gameplay, developer interviews, and publisher presentations in a live broadcast available across the globe. We're partnering with developers and publishers like 2K, CD Projekt Red, Xbox, EA, Square Enix, Devolver Digital, THQ Nordic, Ubisoft, and many more who are eager to show off what they've been working on. So that's exciting. You know, the summer is here. E3 is dead, but it's, you know, but the games are still alive and well. And
E3 is dead. Long live E3. Basically,
digital E3.
You know, one thing I said early on after when they announced E3 was canceled, I was worried. One, I said, are they going to keep their same time slots? You know, when they do their conferences or, you know, on digital conferences or whatever. And two, like if they're not communicating, like how are we gonna like make any sense of these events?
Mm-hmm.
And who's to say Ubisoft and Square Enix don't have an event at the same time on the same day? Like the one thing E3 did was it gave people time slots and made it make sense. But now everybody's trying to do it. Yeah. You got IGN, who's going to be probably one of the big dogs as far as getting things together. You got Jeff Keighley, the guy who does the Game Awards in December. He's got his own Summer Game Fest. And then Ubisoft's doing their own event in July.
And then I think GameSpot is doing something as well.
GameSpot is doing Play Games Fest or whatever. There's too many.
Yeah. Well, and also you're right. It's like E3 made it very concise of like this is happening now and this is happening now and this is happening now. I think the benefit of what is happening is that more developers have their own time, and you know there's not that debate of like who won. Like at the end, like in September when all this is over, like when all the hype stuff is over, are we going to have a conversation of like who won Summer Game Fest or Summer of Gaming? Because it's like every day there was something new. It does make it harder for things to market when there's so much stuff coming out. But I do think at the same time, at least it gives more people legs to stand on their own. That way, tomorrow, like there's this game that was announced at some conference last year called Foregone. And I follow them on Twitter, and it looks like a really cool game, and I'm waiting for them to release it on PlayStation. If Foregone had their own day, I'm curious if I would have felt like it was in a sizzle reel of a bunch of other games I had to go look up. But if there was like its own like 10-minute like section on a Tuesday at IGN.com, would have I spent more time on it, or would I have just passed it up? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. And selfishly, I liked E3 because we could take 3 days off work or whatever and sit down and like order pizza, and that was our Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like we watch it and discuss, and it was just fun for me.
Well,
And this,
hopefully,
there's no way to. I mean, we can take the big days like next week, next Thursday when they're going to do the PS5 Future of Gaming event, and we'll probably get a similar event for Microsoft. But there's no like if this week we're getting it all.
yeah, yeah. There, that also makes it to where like if next week is the games, do we have to take another day off or whatever when they announce the hardware stuff, or do we take another day off when they announce the price or whatever? So it's
Of course, Sony was always going to be special because they dropped out of E3 before E3 was canceled.
Yeah,
So
that's true. But so Marvel's Avenger also tweeted that they said, "We've reassembled at home and are working to finish our mission. We can't wait to show you new gameplay and co-op in our first Marvel's Avengers War Table stream on June 24th." So we have about a month to hear more from them.
yeah.
Go ahead.
So that brings up. Did they just Are they just now getting reassembled, or now they've gotten to a point where they could talk about it, and that makes sense.
Yeah. So I think it's just saying, they've had a month to get used to working at home, and then now they're,
Yeah.
they've
That also reminds me of it's not in here, but the story from EA and BioWare, where they're the guys working on rebooting Anthem. Basically just came out last week and said like, "Hey, it's gonna take a while. Right now, there's 30 of us in this almost like they're almost pitching a new game, like designing a whole new game to fix Anthem, and it just sounds like a mess."
Yeah. I'm curious if it's worth it. Well, I guess for them it probably is because they've spent so much money making it. But
I think if it was me, and I think everybody who's talked about it, I've listened to talk about it, agrees, it might just be time to cut the losses. If you've got to put a whole nother development cycle into this game that just didn't do it.
Though, I mean,
you could take some of the ideas and bring them into a new game. Like, it's not like all the ideas were bad. It just didn't come together. But I don't know. It's not my game.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, I mean,
I never finished it.
Unfortunately or fortunately, like, we have seen the retribution of games like that with No Man's Sky and stuff like that. This is different because this is huge game, but anyway,
The Redemption.
Yeah, there we go. Retribution's not the word I was looking for.
I was like, Retribution. Hang on.
Yeah. Before we go,
But anyway,
we want to tell you about some of the free games you'll be able to play this week if you have PS Plus or Xbox Games with Gold. PlayStation seems to be coming back from an unpopular month for some. Month of May had Farming Simulator 19 and Cities Skylines, which I personally, actually I didn't play either of them, but I didn't hate those options because Farming Simulator seems to do pretty well every time it comes out, and City Skylines is supposed to be a fantastic city builder. But this month,
I played both.
Oh yeah.
I played Farming Simulator on PS4, and it was just like, I can't do this. It was like playing a Windows 98 game. It was bad. But I guess if that's your thing, great. But you probably already bought the game if that's your thing. City Skylines I played on PC and love it. I mean, it's SimCity, but the best parts of SimCity and not the bad parts of SimCity. Yeah. And so I really liked it, but I didn't play it on PS4, so I can't speak to how good the port is.
Yeah.
But this month
looks pretty good. We have Call of Duty World War II, which actually came out in May. They released that in May. So I'm curious.
Yeah.
I'm curious about that decision. And then they finally announced that Star Wars.
It's kind of weird for them to drop that early.
I'm thinking part of me thinks it's because the games weren't as downloaded, or if they just wanted to give us something else nice to be nice. I don't know. Well, and also I hadn't mentioned this earlier, just with me and Josh, but we were talking about. I'm curious if before they had just announced what it was Call of Duty World War II, and then there's a few days before they finally announced that the second game was Star Wars Battlefront 2. So I'm curious. I was curious at the time, like, oh, what's the second game going to be? Is it going to be another huge game, or are they just spreading it out? And to be fair, I think it's a pretty big game. That to be fair, I think it is a pretty big game that they, or at least you've already played Battlefront 2, or at least the campaign.
Yeah.
I never really got a chance to play it, so I'm excited about that. And I actually did recently download Call of Duty World War II, and you can hear about that on our other show. If you have Xbox, their games with gold this month. You have 4 games. You have Destroy All Humans, which they're actually remaking this year. I think they're supposed to be publishing a remake of that game this year.
Is that the remake?
No. That's the older version. The Xbox 360, I guess. They have a game called Cinemora, or Cinemora,
or Cinemora.
Cinemora.
I mean, it looks like sign in math, so I don't know.
Yeah. A game called Coffee Talk, which I discovered was a barista simulator. And then the last game is called Shantae and the Pirate's Curse. I know
Shantae.
You knew Shantae? I know an Ashanti, but that's it. Coffee Talk I almost looked up because I am a barista, but it would be a different kind of barista that I would. Also, Coffee Talk sounds like a podcast where you just talk about coffee. And as I've...
Coffee Talk would be a good, just like, chill podcast. Like, just talk about whatever. I don't know if it would actually be good because, like, it's hard to... It would be hard to market.
Yeah.
But,
well, it sounds like Car Talk, which is a podcast about talking about cars. Anyway, I guess that does refute what I was saying earlier about calling things something talk. I'm like, that's just so boring. But hey, if Car Talk can do it, then they can do it. Well, thank you for joining us for the news segment of our shows. Again, this is Ware Gaming News for Saturday, May 30th. Hopefully, you'll be hearing this on Saturday, May 30th. But if not, that's doing it.
And don't worry, we're not necessarily PlayStation focused. Like me and Nick are both PlayStation fans. Like that's where we play most of our games, or all of our games, really. Yeah. But we are not necessarily biased as far as we're going to talk about Xbox as well. And what we're doing, our design from here on is we're going to do a news segment, the Ware Gaming News, and that'll release, and then we'll do our Ware Gaming Weekly podcast will turn into a more topic-based conversation where we deep dive into a couple of these stories and then talk about what games we're playing and things like that. So
yeah.
So come here. You're looking out for both of them.
Yeah. Come here for the news. Go there for our personalities, I guess. I don't know. Great.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm weird. I apologize. So that's the show. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next week or on Ware Gaming Weekly.
And don't forget to follow us at WareGaming_ on Twitter. You can follow me at Joss1015, and you can follow Nick at SpeakNicklish. You can also go to WareGaming.com. And till next time, see ya.